announcement. Okay,
Okie dokie.
Miffi, take it away.
So, a very warm welcome to everybody. It's so nice that we're an international class today. So thank you so much for Shanti Davis Centre in New York City for hosting this course. And also welcome to the Brisbane people, Langri Tumpa Centre. We can all make some international Dharma friends during the course of during this course. So we're doing a course that I've kind of called the Dharma Toolkit, or Demystifying Tibetan Buddhist Ritual. And so we'll be going through quite a few really interesting, juicy things. And the main thing for today, have you ever heard of that saying, you know, if you remember back in the day when we used to travel, and if you've ever gone into a temple or into a church, and I'd noticed there'd sometimes be a sign saying, this is a living temple, not a tourist attraction, or this is a living church, not a tourist attraction, just to try and make people show some respect. So, you know, churches and temples, they're kind of active places. They're places of worship, and they're also, you know, intriguing and can be quite inspiring. So we're going to have a look at, in particular today, all about altars and how they work and what's so good about them. So I thought just before we get started, it's really nice to set our motivation. So just in an informal way, to the two wings of the bird, as Venerable Robina often says, you know, wisdom and compassion. So in an informal way, we can think with a spirit of curiosity to develop our wisdom, but also to really enjoy developing our wisdom, to encourage your natural curiosity, and to not worry about, oh, is that a taboo question, or am I a bit shy, or is that stupid question, or anything like that. Curiosity is good. This is what the Buddha really encouraged. And if we want to sustain our spiritual journey, we have to have this feeling of joy of finding out things. So curiosity is a nice way to put it. So that's one side of things. The other side of things is kindness. So the good heart, why do we want to do this? Well, because we just want to be better human beings. We want to make a kinder world. We want to be kinder to others. We want to be kinder to ourselves. And how do we do that? We need support. We need to have everything in order, inner and outer. So the whole purpose isn't to get kind of smart or to know more or to not get in trouble. The whole purpose of anything is to become kinder. It's not even about belief or being a good Buddhist or anything. It's to become a kinder person. And if our Tibetan Buddhist rituals can't help make us a kinder person, then it's better to just put them aside. Hey, so in a spirit of curiosity and kindness. We can also set our motivation. We can have a temporary or an immediate motivation, and then the long-term one. So I like to start really close, start from the beginning, right where I am, which is usually with whatever current questions I have going on in my mind or what I find out about, and it's usually quite narrow-minded and focused. So you might have questions about altars, ritual. One time when you went to a Dharma center and you had a question and never kind of got a chance to ask it. So you can start there if you have any also motivation for your own practice, bring that to mind now. The kind of immediate concerns playing in your mind, and we can anchor our motivation in that. And then we extend our motivation to not put any limit for why we're here. So our ultimate purpose, what's the whole point of it all anyway? The whole point is to become a Buddha for the benefit of all. And how do we do that? We've got to have a whole lot of things in our strategy. And so Buddhist ritual is one of those things. So that's the whole purpose. all the way to having a beautiful environment, helping others, helping all beings, helping them not just in this life, but all lives, all the way until everybody is enlightened. So that's our motivation. All right. So what we're going to have a look at today, how having an altar is also a living practice, just like a church is a living tradition, or a temple is a living tradition. And what I found really nice when I went to some temples overseas is that they would have around the edge would be where the tourists could walk around, and in the middle, kind of roped off, would be where the practitioners are actually doing their prayers and praying, and the two were kind of separated. And then that way, fairly harmoniously, the tourists and the practitioners could exist harmoniously. So our altar too, it's a living tradition. It's not a chore. It's not something to kind of procrastinate about or be intimidated by, but actually our altar is like the altar in your own home. It's like a biofeedback. It's a reflection of your own inner journey. So it's a living thing. You kind of use it to express where you're up to, and then kind of read and become aware of where you're up to. Also, the altar isn't the practice, it's the reminder of the practice. So by having an altar, we walk into our room and we go, oh yeah, the Buddha. Well, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. The Buddhas are here all the time, aren't they? But we forget. So we need a reminder. We need lots of reminders. And in fact, Lama Zopa Rinpoche said, it's great to have an altar in every room of the house, just so that we're always reminded. Having an altar is also, it's a memory prompt to show us what our goals are, what we're aspiring to, what we can become, to remind us of the universal qualities of the Buddha, that we have the three rare sublime ones to support us. So you might already have an altar at home. You might be wanting to set one up. You might be kind of wondering, have I done it right? You might have kind of set one up and then run out of steam and now it's got all dusty, you know, all of these things. That's just a little bit of biofeedback to just show us where we're up to, and then we can do something about it. An altar is also a time machine. So when we have an altar, all the things that are on the altar, they have a lineage. They connect us to everyone who's gone before and become enlightened. So they connect us to the past, all the way to the time of the Buddha. It connects us to the present, reflecting our own inner state. And it shows us the future. This is what we can become. This is the environment that we can create. So it's not that that we're here and an altar's out there. Actually, an altar is a manifestation of our own inner state. And it really is. It's a time machine. All those things exist simultaneously. And it's also, an altar is a method to accumulate merit, to create virtue, to develop a positive momentum. So it's not just pretty. It's not just pretty like interior decorating. And it's not just a quaint custom, you know, that's kind of nice for the olden days, for the peasants, you know, back in the day, or some old-fashioned legend. It's actually a very powerful tool that we can use. It's also, having an altar, it's not just about kind of worshipping idols or having a statue, but actually whenever we look at a statue of the Buddha, behind me here, when you look at a statue of the Buddha, you think of it as a mirror. It's a mirror of your potential. So any good feeling that you have about the Buddha, when you look at a Buddha statue or a tanka of the Buddha, where's that happening? In your mind. That's you connecting with your Buddha potential. So that in itself is fantastic, just to remember it's like a mirror. So we're going to have a look at the essential components of an altar. and where to put it, how to arrange it, and then a little bit about the power of holy objects. Now I'm going to get up the screen share now. Where are we? Here we go. So why have an altar? And I'm going to start with a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, because that's the best place to start, isn't it? Everything starts with His Holiness. And I love this this photograph. You know, His Holiness like a light in the world. And here he is, so humble in his room with his altar. It's so intimate and unassuming, isn't it? So, you know, if His Holiness has an altar, if it's good enough for His Holiness, then it's good enough for us, hey? So I'm just going to start with also putting it in the really big context. For all of you who've been studying Buddhism for a while, this is the philosophical grounding for having an altar. So if you remember what a Buddha is a lot more than the person of the Buddha, is a lot more than the historical Buddha, but the Buddha is comprised of the 4 Buddha bodies. The mind and the body of a Buddha, not separate. So the Buddha's mind, the Dharmakaya, out of everything, the great Dharmakaya, everything comes from the great Dharmakaya. The Dharmakaya, it exists everywhere. There's no obstruction. And then from the Buddha's side, the Dharmakaya is enough, isn't it? The completely perfected, purified mind. But to help sentient beings, you know, we're so alienated, we can't kind of connect. So to help sentient beings, the Buddha manifests in forms that we can relate to. So on the form side, we have Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. So the Sambhogakaya is the body of light of a Buddha. A Buddha's body made of light particles, nothing solid or material. But there's very few of us that actually have the eyes or the merit to be able to see a body of light manifesting there in front of us. So then also the enlightened beings manifest in forms that we can relate to, like human beings, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Chenrezig Buddha in person. So we may not be able to see Chenrezig with 1,000 arms, but we can see His Holiness. We can see His Holiness whenever we want, on television, on YouTube. I mean, it's extraordinary. And also so this is the Nirmanakaya form, the human form, the one that we can relate to, but also the statues. Now the statues are interesting because the statues of the Buddhas and the deities are both Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya. For us ordinary people, you know, for me, when I see a statue, it's a Nirmanakaya form. It's a solid thing made of some form of metal. But actually for a realized being, what they see isn't a statue of the Buddha, they see the Buddha. And they don't just see a statue of Tara, they see Tara. So I'll tell you a little story about Lama Zopa Rinpoche. When he came to Chenrezig Institute just up the road from us in Queensland, quite a few years ago now, and when he arrived into the Gompa, and he went up the stairs of the throne, and as he's going up the stairs of the throne, he kind of paused and took a long time looking at everything on the altar, and then looked at the Tara statue there. So there's a life-size Tara statue, painted green, very beautifully painted, but it had the clothes on the statue originally had been gold thread or some kind of metal thread, and they tarnished in the Queensland humidity, so it was all brown. And Rinpoche spent a long time looking at the Tara statue, and then he turned to one of the nuns and said, "You've got to get some new robes for the Tara statue." And it's as if you could see that he'd gone up the stairs, he'd stopped and had this big long conversation with Tara, and Tara had said, "Look at me." Like, just look at this gunk that's on me. And so Rinpoche's like, you got to fix this, right? Clear as day, you could see the conversation happening. It was amazing. Okay, so here we are with His Holiness and his beautiful altar. So I'd like to say a little bit about framing things, because, you know, we have these altars. This is a very, very unassuming but very beautiful looking altar. Here's a little bit about framing. So, you know, if we see a picture of the Queen, how do we know she's the Queen? Well, she's got, you know, this incredible cape, heavy with power and might. You know, she's got this massive crown on her head full of diamonds. Often she's holding like a globe of the world, like dominion over the entire world, Queen of the realm. You know, framed in the regalia and a gold throne, you see the might and the power. Actually, even on this, you can see that there's lions holding up the chair, like a lion, a secular lion throne, you know. So this has an impression on our mind, and it tells us a whole lot just by the glance, and it makes us feel something, you know, like people are on their best behavior in the presence of regalia like this. But what about just the Queen in her undies or anybody in their undies, right? It's completely different, isn't it? So it's a dependent arising, yes, but it doesn't mean that we dismiss that, because dependent arisings have power and we can use that power. So on one hand, you know, we can remember that everybody underneath their regalia is just in their undies, you know, but on the other hand, we underestimate ourselves. We just see ourselves as if we're in our undies, and we forget that what we can become. So it's a two-way street, isn't it? So how do we remember what we can become? It's by actually presenting it to ourselves, and that's why we need an altar, to remember this is what we can become. So I do like to start with something or other a little risque. So I got someone in their undies into class. I'm happy. So the framing, let's have a look at the framing. One of the churches I went to somewhere or other in Europe, you know, I was just mind blown by it. I could see how people would be so moved and so inspired, especially if you're poor and you come into a place like this, like your mind would be uplifted. And here is a similar one. I think this is a Kagyu monastery near Bodh Gaya. Also in the framing, the majesty of it, the beautiful vaulted ceiling with the sky. So we frame just about everything in our life, in our secular life. When we have weddings, how much goes into all the different decorations and the white ribbons and the, you know, flowers and whatever. Parliament, whatever kind of political pageantry that there is, the power of the place. School graduations with all of the outfits, the throwing the hats up in the air. So all of those things draw our attention. It's the framing that draws our attention to something that's important. When we have visitors, we usually clean our house before they arrive. I know, I only clean the house whenever Venerable Robina visits. So now with COVID, you know, it's been a while. These little dust motes floating along. You know, when we have cocktail parties, we get dressed up, we make everything beautiful. So do we do that for Buddha? So in my mind, I think, you know, I like dressing up. So if I dress up to go to the opera or the theatre, then I have to dress up for Buddha. I've got to be consistent here. So when you have beautiful offerings and a beautiful altar, it reminds you of the beauty of the Dharma. And if the Dharma is the most important thing in our life, then we have to physically reflect that. We've kind of got to have a harmony between the inner and the outer. And if it's just the most beautiful thing in our life inside, but not where we live, not expressed outside, there it becomes disjointed. So, of course, His Holiness the Dalai Lama did say, don't Don't have an altar that's super ostentatious. Like there's something a little wrong that if you're in a really poor country and you have all of this wealth and nothing for the actual people, there's something wrong there. But to your best of your ability, to try and reflect the worth and the wealth of the Dharma. So there's something else too I'd like to say about the power of place, of holy places, because we subliminally or kind of instinctually associate a lot of power with place, whether we're aware of it or not. There's some places in our life that we go to where we have traumatic memories associated with them, and then we can't go to that place anymore because it brings up everything. That same power of place we can use to benefit our mind. Walking into a temple, it's like walking into a pool of calm, isn't it? Calm and peace and inspiration. So what makes a Dharma center or an altar really powerful? First, it's from the kindness of the people when you go to that place. How you walk into a room or you come into a Zoom thing and you don't know anybody, but you know you're all on the same page. You know that here are other sincere human beings wanting to be better human beings and help the world. What a tonic that is, how amazing it is to be in that kind of company. So that kind of kindness and sense of safety is really, really important. Then there's the holy objects themselves. So there are different types of objects, ordinary objects, objects that we are exposed to again and again and again, so kind of the power of repetition, and holy objects. And holy objects have a power from their own side. So, you know, even if you have no belief or no awareness, you can still be affected by them. So I know with our cats, for instance, you know, I can bop them on the head with a Dharma text and they get all blissed out. I bop them on the head with something else and they go, ugh. So they don't have any belief, but it has that effect on them. The consecrated statues, when a statue is consecrated, the Lama actually invites the Buddha to come and inhabit this statue. And so once the statue is consecrated, then you think of it as the Buddha. The actual Buddha is there. You know, all we have to do is just turn up and the Buddha will bless us. I mean, in a way, it's miraculous, isn't it? And the more that you come to a place and the more that you become associated with it in your mind, then the power accumulates over time. So not just in your own house, your own altar, but you know, when you go to holy places throughout the world or caves where great practitioners have meditated, you're blessed by being in that place. So in a way, an altar is a machine for making merit. It's all there. So we don't need the industrial machines. We just need a machine for merit. And that's every time you glance at your altar, all of this can happen immediately. Just in that second, just one bow towards the altar, an incredible merit's made. So now, just before we go on to the nitty-gritty of what goes on the altar, are there questions or comments? Anyone have any questions? Wave at me if you do. Or Sheila, if there are any questions that came into the chat. Melissa, yes, if you'd unmute, what's your question?
I just want to make a comment, and you might end up talking about this anyway, but I'm poor. I have some nice things on my shrine that were given to me. I won a Buddhist statue in a raffle, things like that. But I want to make the case for intention, because I know some people who are poor and they got a mandala, you know, and it was very expensive. And so sometimes people think, well, because it's Dharma, I have to spend extra money, but people are poor and need food and shelter, you know?
Yeah, Absolutely, and that's a very good point. So it's not like a huge amount of money that you have to spend. In fact, it's much more, it's a proportionate thing. So if in your mind you have an amount set aside that's a proportionate to what you have, then that's great. That's fine, because there's no, the size actually absolutely depends on the intention, doesn't it? Because with any form of generosity, isn't it, there's the intention and then there's the substance, and we get the two mixed up and we think, oh, I can't be generous because I don't have the substance of generosity. But that's not generosity, is it? Generosity is our intention. So the beautiful thing about having an altar is if you just have the components, whether they're very, very tiny or very large, whether they're expensive, whether they're made of plastic, doesn't matter. You just need the formula. So thanks, Melissa. That's a great point to make, and I'm glad you did. Anybody else? Any other questions at all?
Yeah, there is a question in the chat.
Yeah.
And the question is, does the statue need to be consecrated for a realized being to see the Buddha?
Okay. So a realized being would see the Buddha and relate to the Buddha, like the Buddha statue behind me, as the Buddha. For us for the power of the object and to bless our mind, they say it is really important to consecrate the Buddha statue. And again, it's like that subliminal framing, because they're filled with the mantras, the different mantras for each of the chakras, filled with precious objects, gold, diamonds, silver, pearls, amethyst, turquoise, all of these precious things, so that if the place was burning down, you'd take your jewels with you, so you'd take your Buddha with you. So all of that's for the benefit of our mind. I have to confess, our Buddha statue is not consecrated yet. The Buddha statue came with all of the mantras, so the mantra's in the cupboard underneath. So I'm thinking it's kind of vicinity, and we're going to get to it eventually. So we're not quite there yet, but I'm not so worried about it. It's a work in progress.
Could I maybe just elaborate? And thank you so much, Miffi and Sheila. Because I was going to get a good friend a green Tara statue, and they are, Buddhist, but they don't, like they may put it in the bedroom. They might not like put an altar. And I'm just wondering if it's appropriate, or is it better to just have an unconsecrated statue? Because I don't know if there's karma, if they don't like treat it with the respect, it ideally would, if it would benefit them or not.
Yeah, so the karma would be from your side, not their side. So if you, for instance, give a statue that is not quite right, or it's got a chipped little finger or something, it's you that will accumulate the karma, not them. So from our side, we try and give everything good and perfect and as wonderful as we can. Then that's great. Then when you give it to somebody, then you explain the importance of it or the value, and just give them a suggestion, put it somewhere nice. Don't put it on the floor and use it as a doorstop. Put it somewhere nice. And Tara is a wonderful statue to give, because people respect Tara whether they're religious or not. They have a really, really nice affinity. And even modern day people, they'll hedge their bets and they'll go, oh, well, it's nice to have something blessing the household, or that we can pray to, or might help, quick help in emergencies, or look after the kids or something. So you explain it on that level that they're going to resonate with. So we've had a couple of students who their friends have wanted to have a baby. And they've tried and tried and tried to have a baby. And so, Pearlie said to them, well, if you take the 21 Tara praises and you say the 21 Tara praises 21 times, just like it says in the praises, you'll get pregnant. So her friends, they're just a doctor and a nurse. They got the 21 Tara praises. They went and sat on the beach on a full moon, and they read the praises together 21 times, not religious at all. Made prayers to Tara, please want a baby, immediately pregnant. So, Tara in particular, is a beautiful gift to give.
Thank you.
You just kind of help explain.
Thank you.
Okie dokie. So let's have a look now. What actually can go onto an altar? What are the components? So this is the recipe, everybody. So in the middle, you have the Buddha. Even if you've got other statues, you still have the Buddha in the middle. And if you've got other, say, tantric deities like Chenrezig or Tara or Manjushri or Yamantaka or anything like that, they go around the edge because it's a hierarchy. So you don't organize it according to size or anything like that. You just have the Buddha in the middle, and then the tantric deities, the highest yoga tantra ones in the first circle, the lower tantra in the second circle. So the body of the statue represents the form of a Buddha, because we're going to have representations of body, speech, and mind of a Buddha on the altar. So whether it's a statue, whether it's a tanka, whether it's just a photograph you've printed from the internet, that's okay. Try and make sure that it's actually a full Buddha, not just a Buddha head. And train your speech so that you don't say, oh, that's a beautiful Buddha, because all Buddhas are beautiful. You say, that's artistically very accomplished. Got to be really careful with our speech. Then on the Buddha's right, you have the texts. And this represents the speech of a Buddha, the skillful means to help others. And so you can have a text wrapped up in brocade more traditionally. You can have a CD, you can have some flashcards, you can have a sutra or a lamrim text. You could have the lamrim wrapped up. You could have the Heart Sutra beautifully written out in oldie worldy calligraphy in gold framed, whatever you like. The Diamond Cutter Sutra, usually what it is either the entire path to enlightenment, so a lamrim text, or a wisdom text, the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, nicely presented. And then on the Buddha's left, you have something representing the mind of a Buddha. So this is usually a stupa, or it can be a bell and dorji, the bell representing the mind. So all of the texts and the sadhanas and everything, they always say the left and the right, and it's always from the point of view of the deity. So from the point of view of the Buddha's left, wisdom, the Buddha's right, method. So it can be a bit confusing for us, but it's nice in terms of a mindfulness practice, because you always have to put yourself in the place of the Buddha. And this is good. Then at the top, the gurus, because nothing's higher than the guru. Without the guru, there's no Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha. There's no body, speech, or mind of a Buddha. So the guru goes at the top. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama, if you don't know who your guru is, it's His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And since you're in an FPMT center, it's Lama Zopa Rinpoche, because we're here, we have the connection. They've already hooked us with their hook of compassion. If you don't have room at the top, then you can have the gurus in front. Then offerings. So the best thing to offer is light. Little plastic lights, you know, the electric ones, they're fantastic because there's no danger of fire. We don't want to be blessed by fire. It's great to have the light on 24/7. At least have some kind of light on all the time on the altar. And the light represents two things. One is wisdom, of course, illuminating the darkness of our ignorance with the wisdom of the Buddhas. But the other is a steady flame, represents long life. So, you know, we've got an electric flame. It lasts for, you know, hours and hours, days and days. Then we have water bowl offerings. So we'll do this in one of the classes. The water bowl offering practice from a teacher. So usually it's 7 water bowls, and they're done daily. And they're great as a practice because you don't need any money to do it. And you can't tarnish your offerings with pride because it's just water. And then if you have a tantric practice, then you'd have a set of tantric offering bowls. You don't have to have them up all the time. If you only do the practice like on the special days, then you put it up then and then take it away. If you do the practice every day, then you can have them up the whole time. Then extra offerings like a bowl of fruit, a vase of flowers. If you have shopping, you can bring the shopping in, offer it at the feet of the altar, and then half an hour put it away. If you have incense, what you're offering actually is the smell of the incense. So usually with the incense, you just put it in a bowl on the floor so that the ash just goes onto the floor and it's the smell of the incense that wafts up. So they're the main components: body, speech, mind, gurus, offerings. Here's a slightly more elaborate depiction. So this was our altar for our New Year's Eve. We had an all-night Tara Puja. So this is in our little Gompa. So what you can see, we've got the Buddha here, and the altar is actually just a cabinet, and it's got a round mirror at the back. And so I've just covered it with one of those gold paper doilies they have at weddings, and it looks like an icon then, you know, because it's glittery and whatever. So that's like the halo. So we have the Buddha, and we have the offering bowls. We have the gurus up the top here. We have lights. And then because it was the special Tara Puja, we've got the 2 sets of tantric offerings and various other things. It's nice to have. I like having a globe of the world up there. So not everything's on there. The little text, they're just hanging up on either side. So this is a very basic altar because when we did the all-night Tara Puja, we had the main thing was on our computer as a pop-up, like the screen share. So the pop-up altar on your computer, nowadays you can have all of these components. You can build your altar on your computer, virtually made of light. Pop it up for your practice and then dissolve it back into the Dharmakaya. What could be better? So you can really make the altar your own. It's a bit like a vision board, you know, a bright future. When you first get a Buddha statue and you bring the statue into your home, really think that you're inviting the Buddha into your home. So get it all really nice set up how you can. It's nice to wrap the Buddha in a kata, the white scarf. When everything's set up nicely, then make a cup of tea. 1 cup for the Buddha, 1 cup for you, and sit down and offer the tea and invite the Buddha into your home for a cup of tea. If you have things on your altar that are antiques or deceased estate or come from the op shop, so I get a lot of stuff from the op shop, then it's really good to actually consecrate them first, because anything that isn't new that comes from others, especially if it's a deceased estate, if it's an antique, whoever owned it in the past may still be attached to it. And so as a way of releasing them from their attachment, then you can consecrate it with this special mantra that's up on the next slide. I'll show it in a moment. Also, if those objects, especially with antiques, if they've been stolen, you know, then there also might be spirits associated with them or negative karma associated with it. So to clean all of that up, consecrating it's really important. And it's also better to have something that's clean rather than elaborate and antique and all dusty and oldie worldy. It's better to have it all clean and filled with light. You know, crystal bowls or glass bowls are so nice because the water looks so inviting. So we're quite lucky, you know, even just clear plastic bowls look really lovely. And then try and have the altar not low, at least waist height. So even when you're sitting on the floor that you're looking up, you're not looking down. It's a little counterintuitive for us Westerners. Okay, so I'll just stop here and ask, are there any questions so far about the components that go on the altar or the statues or anything at all?
Okay, so there is one question in the chat that says, how much space is needed to begin an altar? I am currently working on hoarding and cluttering issues.
Oh yes, I hear you, I hear you. Okay, I have some examples of how very, very tiny it can be, so it's okay. We just get started. You know, I told you it's like a time machine, right? So we just start where we are and then we have aspirations. So it's all right. Okay, so let's have a look then. Where were we here? Right, this is the mantra of dependent arising, and this is the mantra that you use to consecrate whatever holy object that you bring in, to also clean the karma from antiques, antique vases or whatever, and to bless whatever antiques or op-shop things that you brought in. And what it is the mantra from the speech blessing, the mantra dependent arising. Om ye dharma hetu prabhava, hetan tekan tatagato, haya vada tekan sayo, nirodha, evam vadi maha shramanaye swaha. So you say that 3 times onto the object. So it's really amazing when Phuntsog Rinpoche and Geshe Zopa came to visit, and I just bought these amazing antique vases for the altar. And the first thing that they did was consecrate the altar and say the mantra over the vases. Oh, okay, there was probably some history with those vases. So generally the Tibetans, you know, they were a nomadic culture. So what they carried was these little things. What are they called? Reliquaries. So these tiny little, you know, it's only be about the size of your hand or the size of your palm. So the statue, the little tsatsa inside in a beautifully carved box, some holy relics, maybe a couple of folded up texts, all in a pretty rank looking Tibetan pouch, and you just wear it around your neck. So that's a mini altar right there, traveling one. Our kind of version, we can have, here's a little picture of a pop-up altar, literally like a kiddie's pop-up book. These ones are rare as hen's teeth now, but I used to take these when we traveled to see His Holiness the Dalai Lama. We just put it in our hotel room and ta-da, here's our pop-up altar. Of course, we have whatever beautiful picture we have on our device, our screen. You can get an old kitchen cabinet and paint it up like a Tibetan one. Really nice to do. You have all your consumables and biscuits and tea lights and whatever in the cupboards underneath, and carters and incense. You have all of your statues and then the bowls and the light in front. And then usually you'd have the texts and more statues up the top. If you have people in your house that are not Buddhist or maybe offended or upset by an altar, you can have it in a medicine cabinet, you know, with the doors closed, and then you come to do the practice and you open the doors. because we don't want to disturb the minds of others. So especially say if your parents are worried that you're Buddhist, or they think you're going to hell in a handbasket or whatever it is, then to not disturb their mind, you can just have it really discreet. So ironically, the best type of altar that I've found is 1950s drinks cabinets, because they're perfectly set out, that the doors open, ta-da. They've usually got some special lighting. They have a beautiful mirror. They have these glass shelves, all these little dinky shelves, and a fold out everything. Then you do all your practice, and then you just fold it all back again. Here's a picture of my altar. So because, you know, I kind of look after the altar here and designed the altar here behind me, you know, I've got this amazing, spectacular altar. Then my altar at home, it's not kosher at all. In fact, it's more like a radial altar. So right in the center here, I have this very small statue of Amitaios that Lama Zopa Rinpoche gave to me. So that's like right at heart level. That's the center of the altar, and everything radiates out around from it. And then I've got Our Lady of Lords, I've got the kitchen fairy, I've got my dead mum's ashes in a bottle, I've got a little holy relic of Chöden Rinpoche, and copious perfume bottles. So that's all kind of there. And then I've got the texts underneath. That's not kosher either. Usually the texts go at the top, but it's kind of a radial thing. And the sutras, and a skull to remember death and impermanence and get a Rigsul on Miffi. And up the top here, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, ashes of my dead mum, my dead mum's coffee cup. So it all radiates out and surrounded by books. So, you know, this is a tiny little altar. You just kind of get the hierarchy right, and I look at it now and I go, not quite right yet, but you don't get all judgmental about it. You just kind of have it, it's a biofeedback, and you go, oh yeah, haven't quite got my priorities right yet. You know, it's been like this for ages, I only just noticed, I better just rearrange things a little. So it's a work in progress, it's a living practice. Then here's another form of an altar. So these are, one Christmas I did a whole range of altar vignettes, I call them. So these are like, you know, under the glass domes, and I made a whole series of them. So this one's called Pink Zambala Land. So this is Zambala, but I decided to make Zambala pink. I've got this amazing blown glass perfume bottle that's like Zambala's vase, wealth vase. A couple of mermaids, nagas, pink, glorious, and then just, you know, a wealth of deliciousness. So all these pink cakes, whatever those little frou-frou things are, a couple of bottles of Chianti. So you kind of get the idea, right? So it's this little vignette, and the story, I'll tell you the story about that little perfume bottle, right? So I was making these altar vignettes. So I was looking for all the miniature things. And I thought, I've got to find something that's really beautiful, a vase for Zambala's wealth vase. And we were in Melbourne. We were just there for a few days, going through these spectacular shopping precincts. And there was this shop filled with incredible jewelry. And at the front, all these blown glass perfume bottles. And they're from an artist in Tasmania. Each one's individual. And I saw that pink one. I went, oh my gosh, that's it. So I went into the shop, and the lady at the counter said, oh, hello, are you Miffi? And I'm like, what? What's happening? And she said, yeah, I've seen you in Bendigo at the Great Stupa. And so it turned out that the person who owned the shop was a Buddhist, and the way that they'd arranged all of the spectacular jewelry and everything was around the edge of the shop and in this cabinet in the middle. The cabinet's about 6 foot. On the top of the cabinet is a stupa. So everybody that goes into the shop accidentally circumambulates all the jewels and the stupa, and there she was. Anyway, so then I got the bottle, and I got this amazing discount, and there it was. I had my Zambala. work in progress, you know, Zambala altar. Okay, so then where you place your altar, it should be somewhere where you're not going to just like stretch out and point your feet at it, because that's counted culturally as kind of being rude. So it can be, say, kind of where you look, but a little bit to the side there. I mean, in a way, the best place to put an altar is above the television so that you're always looking at it. But because my feet are stretched out at the television, then maybe just a little off side. But, you know, again, it's a dependent arising, what's going to be the most skillful. Lama Zopa Rinpoche loves you to have an altar in every part of the room, every part of the house. If you have it in the bedroom, then try and have your altar higher than the bed. This is a feng shui wise, that if it's lower than the bed, you're always going to get sleepy when you meditate. That's just how it goes. So it's got to be higher. It's got to be higher than where you sit, or you just won't, it just won't work. And then many of the sadhanas will say, sit down facing the east where the sun rises. And so you have your altar in front of you there. But don't worry if it is or not, you just think it is. It's great. That's pretty much the advice in the text, is just think that you're facing east, and that'll do it. Okay, so any questions about the altar, and then we'll go on to the other components of the speech and the mind part. So altar or Buddha statues, any other questions? All okay? Are you feeling a little bit more confident now? Melissa, you had a question. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I'm checking out my altar while you're describing all this. And the only statue of the Buddha I have is Medicine Buddha. And
That's
then
right.
I have, okay, Thousand Arm Chenrezig, which is a big statue. And I have made the Chenrezig statue the center of the altar. Is that wrong? Should it be the Medicine Buddha?
Could you have the Medicine Buddha in the shelf above?
No, logistically, no.
Okay, then you just do the best that you can. If you can have the Medicine Buddha in front, if you have, or to the side, but on a box.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's okay. That's great. That sounds excellent. And many times you might have a big tanka behind a Buddha statue. You might have a tanka or a photocopy of a deity behind the Buddha statue, and the Buddha statue in the middle. It's just you just do the best that you can. So that you have those two things in itself is great. Medicine Buddha in the middle is fine as well, because actually Medicine Buddha is Shakyamuni Buddha. Medicine Buddha is like an aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha of being the great physician. So blue with the medicinal plant. So actually Shakyamuni Buddha is like the person of Medicine Buddha. You know, Shakyamuni Buddha was the historical one. Who is he really? Medicine Buddha. So that's fine to have in the middle right there. Anybody else? Okay, in that case, we'll continue on then for the other aspects of what goes on the altar. So we've talked about the altar and the form of the Buddha, the statue. So now let's have a look at the speech. So the speech, generally in a Dharma center, will be represented by having the Tengyur and the Kangyur, which are the 84,000 teachings of the Buddha, and then the commentaries. So there's usually 100 volumes of the teachings of the Buddha, and then 200 volumes of the commentaries. So any Dharma center will have a printed version of that. So we do. Behind me, you can't see, it's kind of a bit further on in all the pigeonholes. And so it's these long texts called petchas. So it's nice to have the physical representation of the Dharma jewel there. Whether you can read Tibetan or not doesn't matter. Just to have the physical basis, or you could have it on CD. We've got the whole thing on burnt onto a CD, and then the CD is beautifully wrapped up, so you can have it like that. The beauty of these pictures is that they were made so that you could just take one page with you and study it and then bring it back in again. When we have whatever it is, the Lamrim, the Kangyur and the Tengyur, or a sutra, a wisdom sutra, that's the physical basis of the wisdom. So what we're actually thinking of is the wisdom of the Buddha. And so you think of all of the letters in the text like this: three-dimensional, made of light, standing upright, kind of moving and flickering like a flame. They're alive. This is the Sambhogakaya of the Buddha. All of these words are alive. You can think that each one, each syllable is singing its own sound. And together it's just like the symphony of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres of the whole universe, singing its sound, the Dharma sound. So that's actually what we're bowing down to when we have holy texts on the altar. And every time that we do, then we bow down and we think that light comes streaming from every single syllable into our mental continuum, blessing our mental continuum. So incredibly powerful objects. And actually, I mean, the alphabet, right? The Tibetan alphabet or the English alphabet, it's like the DNA of wisdom, isn't it? The way that you combine it, it's infinite. And, you know, Lama Zopa Rinpoche shows so much respect to writing. And I mean, of course, whenever we have texts or when you have your Dharma notes, you never go, oh, I'm finished with them and stick them in the rubbish bin. You put them into the Dharma burning, and you think then you're not even burning the paper, the words. The words dissolve into light, and the light absorbs into your heart, and all you're doing is burning the paper. So this incredible respect for the words, for the alphabet, because it combines together to manifest the wisdom of the Buddhas. So again, the words are like a machine for wisdom, aren't they? Because then we read them and then the realizations arise in our mind, and that's the actual words. It's the realizations in our mind. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche, years and years ago, when he first came up to Chenrezig Institute, and so it's Queensland tropics and it's pelting down with rain, and it's really humid and it's just mud everywhere. So he's driving up the hill to Chenrezig Institute, and to get out of the four-wheel drive and into the Gompa, all the students put down newspapers so that he wouldn't get muddy. So he got out of the car and he wouldn't put his foot on the newspaper. He was devastated that you could think you could walk on writing. And in fact, he got everybody to pick up the newspapers and take them into the Gompa and wipe them down and dry them out in a pile. So, you know, there you go, completely different mindset. So even I'm thinking, you know, we have welcome mats and you walk on the word welcome, like there's something severely wrong there from a Buddhist point of view. So this incredible respect shown for the words, just because of what words can do. So it's really important that we have some form of text on our altar. So the sutras, you know, the Sangata Sutra, the Diamond Cutter Sutra, the Heart Sutra, the Sutra of Golden Light. So the Sutra of Golden Light, if you have it there in your house, blesses the house, blesses the environment. In fact, in Mongolia, they were mobbed. The Buddhist center there in FPMT Mongolia, someone sponsored to offer a Sutra of Golden Light to every household there in Ulaanbaatar. And that morning before dawn even, there was a stampede for people trying to get that sutra. They had to get security guards in to look after the 2 nuns, because everybody just wanted that sutra in their house. So it has this incredible blessing effect on the environment. Okay, are there any questions about the sutras or the texts or the words? Anybody at all? Yes, Jennifer, go for it.
Thank you. I was wondering about recycling Dharma texts. I know Lama Zopa Rinpoche is not a recommender of that, but then other teachers like Venerable Children say it's okay and that it's more beneficial for the environment. And so, you know, if you've taken him as your guru, but then you have other teachers saying different advice, you know, do you go by order of hierarchy? Or?
Oh, it's really difficult. So I mean, the thing is to just do the very best that you can. So many times, because we're quite flippant with photocopies, you know, we'll just photocopy this or that, and then we get too many copies and and it all goes into Dharma burning, and then the pile gets higher and higher. So I mean, if there's a whole lot, what we've actually done is had the recycling, but we've got the secure recycling bins that come with a lock. And so they say that they actually go straight into the recycling pulp. So the thing that Rinpoche said that he didn't like about recycling is that they end up on the ground. So if you get the secure bins, you know, for state secrets and whatever, then those papers aren't allowed to fly anyway. They just go straight into pulp and they don't end up on the ground. And that was the point that Rinpoche didn't like about the recycling.
I remember asking Venerable Roger about it, and he said it was the fact that Dharma text could eventually become toilet paper. And so then a bunch of us did research about how the ink is separated when you recycle and this and that. And it's just one of those things, it's maybe a general question where I try to follow the advice very well, but then sometimes I'm too afraid I'm becoming too OCD about it. And that I'm like not developing a happy mind because the advice seems very difficult and sometimes restrictive. And I'm trying to find that right balance between a preciseness and purity of practice and also having a joyous mind and doing what's realistic.
So the way you find the balance is to remember it's a dependent arising. So there is no ultimate good or ultimate bad. So what you do is you try and find the very best that you can do in your current circumstances. So of course, to burn it, to turn it into light is the best. But if we can't do that, then there is a respectful workaround. And just like when we burn Dharma burning, we're just burning the paper. So with the pulp also, we can think it dissolves. It's just the paper dissolving, but actually all the words have already absorbed into our heart. And, you know, then we just do the very best to organize that the papers never end up on the ground. And, you know, maybe it just gets made into more paper for Dharma text, who knows? But of course, you're right. You always try and follow the words of the guru, but they're not without context. Because it's always the words of the guru in our life as the context. And that'll help kind of balance out how you make that decision.
Thank you.
Yeah, so great, Jennifer. That's excellent. Okie dokie. So now, next goes the stupas. So the mind of a Buddha. You know, we've got the body, the speech, now the mind. So there are actually 8 great stupas, and we're most used to the Enlightenment Stupa, the one up here. And they all have different meanings. In fact, just like, you know, the ancient pyramids have all of these geometrical kind of relations, and each thing means a different thing. So the stupas, the reliquaries of the Buddha's relics, have a whole lot of meaning as well. So for instance, these 4 steps going up represent the 4 immeasurable attitudes. So that's the foundation of our practice. So right there, you have a teaching. And the proportions of a stupa match the proportions of a Buddha's body. So the entire path to enlightenment is in the Enlightenment Stupa. There's a couple of others that we might be familiar with. The Nirvana Stupa here, which is a little bit like the Karam Stupas. Then you can see how it also representing all the different elements there. So the elements are not just the kind of the physical elements that we're used to, like in Chinese medicine or something like that, but this is actually the 5 aggregates purified into the 5 wisdoms. So our samsaric complex purified into the 5 wisdoms of a Buddha. So I'm not sure if in your notes you'll be able to read all of those, that writing. I think it will come through. Then here's some in real life. So these ones are at Kopan, Geshe Lama Konchog's stupa and Lama Lundrup's stupa. So I mean, aren't they just so inspiring, so gobsmackingly beautiful? And it really is quite moving to be able to walk around stupas like this. They can be incredibly elaborate. They're often repainted many times. They've got lots of little gold stupas around the edge. They've got these beautiful banners of flowers. And this one here, Enlightenment Stupas to circumambulate. So we've got a gold stupa here. This is in our Gompa, and it's on a wooden podium that's on wheels, so we can wheel it out from the wall and then circumambulate. And it's got these 4 little tray tables that pull out on all 4 sides. So it ends up looking like this massive UFO about to take off, and we've got light offerings and all sorts of things. So this is the stupa with the ashes of my dead mum in it. You know, Inta, who started this centre, the whole reason that we're here is because of her. So it's really nice to have, you know, the stupa here, and you can't quite see on the picture, but there's a picture of her and a little bit about her. Then on this side is a stupa at Lama Zopa Rinpoche's house, in Aptos house. And this one's really incredible. You know, there's enough room to circumambulate around it, and it has the 21 taras, you know, and they're made of this resin that they're just radiating the light. You can almost see them as real, can't you? And then these offering bowls. So apparently in Aptos house, it's the job of one nun. All she does all day is fill offering bowls. And by the end of the day, they're done. And then the next morning she gets up and she does it all again. So that's her job, to just fill offering bowls the entire time. So it's really nice if you can, you know, especially if you have an office somewhere that you set up, even just a little plant stand, you know, that you put pot plants on. Set it up with a stupa wrapped in a kata, maybe a little flower offering on each corner, and circumambulate it. Like Rinpoche says, when you're on the phone, just circumambulate. When you're worrying about something, pace up and down, pace around. And set it up when you're a bit bored, or if you've got to do some exercise, carry the cats around while you're doing it. So if you've got room in your house to be able to do that, okie dokie. And possibly you could even have, like, if you have a dining table, you could set up all your food and your dinner stuff on the dinner level, and then have a raised bit, like a lazy Susan or something, and have the stupa there in the middle. So it's up above the mundane level, but it's there in the center of the household, and you're offering. You offer your dinner. So there are many ways that we can incorporate an altar into our life. We don't have to be super formal about it. It's nice to have all the components, and then just to see how you can integrate it into your life. So now a little bit more about the stupas. So what actually goes in a stupa are the holy relics. And the stupas were kind of manifested when the Buddha passed away into parinirvana. He left holy relics and said, wherever the relics are, there am I. So you never have to feel that the Buddha is not here. You don't ever have to feel alone. So many temples have holy relics of the Buddha, and you wouldn't know because they're so precious, but they're there, and that's why you walk in and you feel different. So here are some of the beautiful presentations of the holy relics. Often they're in these incredible they look like raindrops into the still pond, don't they? And inside you'll see there the little relics there, and then behind are the pictures of who they are the holy relics of. So here's a bird's eye view of the relics. So you'll see some of them, there's a pearl relic here with some amber around the edge. Here they're kind of like little pilules. Here it looks a bit like caviar, and then with saffron as an offering. Here the 5 kind of dull pearl-like ones. This one is the beginning of the 5 wisdoms relics. So these are the relics that are going into the Maitreya statue that's being built, and also into the Great Stupa in Bendigo. So now I'll tell you a little bit about what these relics are, because they're 3 types of relics, and it'll blow your mind. So I thought I'd just end, as we get towards the end of today's class, I'll just blow your mind. So generally when we think about relics, we think about like dead people's stuff, don't we? And so that is one form of relics, maybe the bowl of the Buddha, or the bowl of the previous Dalai Lama, or the ritual implements, or possibly the robes. We have secular relics too, don't we? We have like Elvis's costume and whatever. So we have an idea. These things have some kind of importance, the precious objects used by the great master. So that's one type of relic. Then we have the relics that come of the body. So the bones, the hair, the remains of great Buddhist masters, the remains of great saints, in other traditions. And often they're encased in in churches. They'll be there almost like mummified and beautifully decorated by the nuns, or in Buddhist centers they might be a little bone relic or a hair relic in a little stupa like that. So that's the second type. The third type of relic are called Rigsul, and that's what those little round relics are. And the Rigsul are precious substances that are found in the ashes after consecration. So the body is burnt, and in the ashes after the consecration, these tiny little balls of pearl, or sometimes like diamonds, will appear in the ashes. And when they first appear, they're very soft. And there's this special way to kind of preserve them for about 24 hours, and then they harden into that substance. They're spontaneously appearing, and they're a manifestation of the wisdom of that master, or the good heart of that master. And when we're in the presence of those relics, we don't even have to believe in anything, and we're moved, we're changed. In fact, when the Holy Relics were touring, I'm not sure if any of you went to any of those exhibitions, but many people would come and they'd bring their pets, and their pets would be completely pacified. It just has this incredible effect on our mind. So there is a special way to actually find and harvest these relics. And so there was one Lama that Venerable Antonio talks about, where they didn't quite know what they were doing. They were on the phone to their other guru, to get instructions. So there was the consecration, and they opened up you know, there were the ashes, and in the ashes was this shape of a like an 8-petaled lotus flower. In the middle of that, these balls of almost like pearls, and they got so excited they went to grab them, and the whole thing disintegrated. And then they just went, oh no. So they rang up, you know, the chief attendant said, what do we do? What do we do? And he just said, stop everything. Don't touch anything. Put a lid over the ashes and leave it for 24 hours and go and say all these prayers. So they did, like totally freaked out. And then after 24 hours, then they had this whole way of how you open up and you say the various prayers and you handle them in this particular way. And after 24 hours, they had re-manifested. And then they were able to actually get these tiny little pearls. So these pearls, right, they, the ones, for instance, of Geshe Lama Konchog, they were, I'm not sure if they're in here. They look a lot like those kind of wiggly shaped pearls. And when the Holy Relics tour, and I think Sheila said that that the Holy Relics, you know, have visited many centres, including Shantideva Centre. So the at the beginning of the tour, they will each night before they put the relics away, they'll count how many are in there at each of the little compartments. And then many times at the end of the day, they'll count and there's more. You know, the beginning in the morning, there's 12, at the end, there's 15. And I've seen actually one of the relics of Geshe Lama Konchog, where it's a pearl and it looks like it's got a little bump coming off the edge, like it's pregnant. And then after a while, there was a big pearl and a little pearl. So that comes from the devotion of the students, that the relics multiply. They're really incredible. So it's such a blessing whenever the relics come, or whenever you can go and pay respects. It's as if the Buddha is there, really, really and truly. Incredible healing powers. So failing that, if you don't have your own precious holy relic of any of the 3 types of relics, then still, if you have a stupa, you can put any precious Tibetan medicine in there. You can put your blessing cords in there, any other good medicines, any jewels. You know, if you've divorced or your husband's died, you put your rings and your jewelry in there, anything precious like that. And then you have it all in a little beautiful stupa. So have I blown your mind? Yes, great, good. Any questions or comments? That's either means that I've cleared everything up or I've completely confused you. I'm not sure which. So I hope that's got you started with setting up an altar. And, you know, if you've already got an altar, you can go and look at it with fresh eyes and enjoy pottering around. You know, we have often these big ideas, I'm going to do this and that, and then, you know, we don't do anything. So just potter around a little bit every day. Just have some fun. Just go little, you know, 1% each day. Try this and try that. Snehi. Hello, what's your question?
Hi, Miffi. It's just a silent Y, so it's Sneh.
Sneh.
Miffi, I had a question on, you had mentioned tantric offering bowls. And I think you said only when you're doing your sadhana practice to put them out?
It can be only then. We're going to have a look at offering bowls in particular next week.
Okay.
of the differences between the two. So again, it depends on your own situation, but generally you just do the water bowls. That's like the starting point with the water bowls. But then if you have tantric practices that you do regularly and you do the offerings in the tantric practice, then you'd have the tantric offerings as well.
So if you do tantric sadhana every day, do you need to have the tantric offering bowls, or is it just a visualization in the sadhana?
If in the sadhana you do the tantric offerings, then it is good to have a physical basis for them. And so then have those tantric bowls set up the whole time and just refresh them each day.
Okay, that's I think what I was trying to ask.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
Good. But we'll revisit that again next week. So have a think about it if there's more curly questions, because it's all in the doing, isn't it? You go, oh yeah, it makes sense, and you go to do it and you go, oh, hang on a second.
Yeah, very true. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay.
So Miffi, I had a question for the
Yeah.
texts that you put out. Can you just download and print them out from the internet? Is that okay? Or do they have to be some special books or whatever?
No, that's fine. I think download, print them out from the internet, and then just try and wrap them up in something really nice, because it's an object. We may read them, but also we want to have it framed. You know, it's all in the framing. So not just in a manila folder shoved up on the altar, but, you know, in brocade or folded up elaborately, or sometimes you get these nice kind of glass jewelry boxes, you know, that they just fit beautifully in, or something like that, to make it nice. Even we've got a couple of sutras, you know, they're printed really nicely. They've got a gold cover, and then I've just wrapped a carta around it and tied it in a bow like a present.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
But even if you just say printed out the Heart Sutra onto a page and just framed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Yeah. There's one question in the chat. Somebody asks, does circumambulating have to be done in a particular direction?
Yes. Oh, again, there is no ultimate answer. There is a relative answer. So the relative answer is you go around clockwise. But in Tibet, the Burn tradition went around anti-clockwise. So the Burn were the pagan tradition before Buddhism came to Tibet. And then when Buddhism came, a lot of the shamanic practices were incorporated into Buddhism. In fact, what happened was a lot of the deities and the nature spirits and everything became Dharma protectors to protect the Dharma. They took the Buddha Dharma as their refuge. So often when we talk about the traditions in Tibetan Buddhism, we'll generally say there are four main traditions: Gelug, Kagyu, Shakya, Nyingma. But His Holiness often has said actually there are five traditions, because the fifth one is the Burn, the first tradition, which is now also Buddhist. And so the Burn go around anti-clockwise, which causes merriment to the whole rest of everybody else that just laugh their heads off at them. So, you know, if you've accidentally gone around the wrong way, you're not going to go to hell. It just means that you've been practicing in the Burn tradition. But generally you go around clockwise, and as you do, you feel that you're drawing all sentient beings with you. So, you know, like when you're walking through water and you're going whoosh, 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 whoosh. So as you're going around circumambulating, that's what you think. You're going whoosh, whoosh, and you're just taking all sentient beings with you around the stupa. Okay, so
I have a question.
Yes.
Miffi,
hello. Are you
hello.
available?
Yes, thank you. Oh, this is so wonderful. Thank you for this teaching. My question is a little bit related to what Jennifer asked before. She was asking about text. But I have a little stupa that is damaged beyond repair. And so what would I do with that?
Okay, so with the damaged things, if it cannot be repaired, then you can't kind of chuck it out. So what you do is you take all of the holy objects from out of it, and then with the stupa or any other damaged, like satsas or statues or something like that, Lama Zopa Rinpoche says to go and put them in the forest in a high, clean place. We can't chuck them out, and we can't just give them to the op shop, because then we create the negativity of offering a broken thing. So we put them somewhere up high and clean. So what we actually did here was we got a birdhouse and we stuck it on top of a pole, and we've covered up all of the doors. And so we put all of those broken holy objects in the door, in the birdhouse, and then closed the door.
Oh,
So,
thank you.
you know, because we don't have a forest to put it up in. So maybe your local Dharma center might have a birdhouse that you can put it in, but it's very tricky. The other thing, maybe, yeah, see if you can repair it. I'm not sure. And if it doesn't look so good, maybe you could put it in something else. But generally what we want is whatever we're looking at, we want it to be perfect. Otherwise, we're going to have imprints of broken things on our mind.
Thank you very much.
It's so nice to have you.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Right, so today we've looked at what goes on an altar and what are the benefits of having an altar. The formula, so whether it's very small, whether it's just virtual and you make it on Photoshop, it is nice to have a physical representation, just like we have the physical things in our house, you know. The whole purpose of an altar is it's a reminder, it's a mirror, it's a time machine for our own enlightenment. The main thing is it's a living practice, so enjoy it. And please, I would say, feel free to experiment. We have the formula, but it's not a formula that exists out there in a vacuum all by itself. It's a formula that has to exist in our own heart. And so have the confidence to make it your own and have it as a living practice and continuously adjust it, because that's what happens. So there'll never be a perfect altar until we're enlightened, and that's a good thing, right? That means we're going to enjoy it all the way along. So let's dedicate that by building our own altar, we can build a pure environment. We can build the pure environment of a Buddha. That by building our own altar, we can be inspired and also open ourselves up to the help and the inspiration of the three jewels. That by having an altar in our house becomes a safe place, a place of blessings for everybody that comes, all the beings seen and unseen. And that by really enjoying having an altar, then we can put in place that internal environment for our own Buddha nature to blossom and flourish. And we can dedicate it all, of course, for our own enlightenment and the liberation of all sentient beings. So thank you so much for coming along, and I hope to see you next week, which is going to be on how and why to make offerings. So if we have an altar, what do we offer? All about water bowls, tantric offerings, how to think when we make that offering, and how we don't actually need any money to do it. So I have one last picture to show on the screen share. I mean, how can you not be inspired with this? So this is one of the FPMT centers, I'm not sure which, but I just find it particularly inspiring because, of course, all the time we are surrounded by the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and there are more Buddhas than there are sentient beings. And we can end with His Holiness the Dalai Lama with his altar. I'm not sure where this is, but again, his attitude you know, he is communicating with this altar, and we can too. So thanks so much, and thank you, Sheila, for hosting me and being such a welcoming and helpful host.
Well, thank you, Miffi. This has been really wonderful. I just really enjoyed. I think we've all really enjoyed it. And everybody, come back next week for more. Miffi, have a good week. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you,
See
Miffi.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.